Good evening and welcome to this January 23rd meeting of the Norfolk Select Board. Our first item tonight is going to be to go into executive session. So with that, Jim, would you be so kind as to give us a motion?
I move to go into executive session pursuant to Mass General Law C-30A S-21A37 regarding strategy in the matter of Rossi versus the Town of Norfolk et al., Norfolk Superior Court.
I will second that motion, and then we will do a roll call vote to approve. Kevin Calcutt, aye.
Jim Lehan, aye.
Anita is on the other one, so she's not going to.
Yeah, and that will suffice for putting us into executive session. We'll be back in a bit. Thank you. All right, and we are back in public session, getting right back into our agenda. Our first item tonight is actually, we skipped it in the beginning, so if everybody could please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance, we'll do that first. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all very much. Justin, would you mind taking us through the rest of our agenda tonight?
Yes, first item is a proposed increase to the municipal lien certificate from $25 to $50. We'll vote to set the date for our annual town meeting, as well as open the warrant for town meeting, review and potentially vote on select board goals, and then a discussion regarding the appropriation of opioid settlement funds.
Very good. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
So as we kick off each of our public meetings, we will start with public comment, where anybody has the opportunity to address the board for up to 3 minutes on items that fall within the purview of the select board. Seeing as how there is not anybody joining us tonight, I'm going to go ahead and say it's pretty safe that we move on. Our next item tonight is to vote to approve an increase of the processing fee for a municipal lien certificate from 25 per parcel to 50 per parcel. Justin.
Yes. So we have Anne Marie. She's our treasurer collector. She provided a memo to the board, so I'll let her speak to it. But I do just generally want to let the board know that as part of our fiscal year 25 budget, as part of my memo, I'd asked departments to take a look at revenues and fees to make sure we're fair levels and appropriate levels. And Anne Marie was very proactive already about that, and she has a request for the select board here. I'll just let her speak to her memo.
It's pretty self-explanatory. As you read, I don't have too many options, as I can collect much more than I do, other than taxes and so forth. So this one fee, it's been the same for many, many years, and I did a little research on the surrounding towns, and it's typically about $50, going up $25. I know it's not much, but it's something. And as you know, we do get several requests for these lien certificates, since it's for whether someone's going to purchase or for a refi. So they do come in regularly. So it is something. So
Perfect.
something's better than nothing.
You hit my two questions that I had. The first one was going to be how we compare it to surrounding towns, which you said this is very much in line. And my second one was about how many of these do we get in a year?
So I don't have an exact number, but they're weekly. And it can range depending on the time of year, depending on the market.
Gotcha.
All that kind of stuff.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Jim?
I've been out-questioned. No, I'm done. Thank you.
Anita?
I don't have a question. I just was going to comment that as I read your memo, I was thinking the same thing, is I wonder what they charge in surrounding towns, and then there was that data. So thank you for providing such a thoughtful memo, and I do not have any questions.
Thank you.
Justin, anything else to add before we make a motion to approve?
Nope.
In that case, I would accept a motion to approve.
I move to raise the processing fee for municipal lien certificates from $25 to $50 per parcel.
Second.
Hearing a second, we'll do a roll call vote. Kevin Calcutt, aye.
Jim Lehan, aye.
Anita Mecklenburg, aye.
That is a unanimous result. Thank you so much again,
you.
once again.
Well
Anne
done.
Marie.
And you come back with money anytime.
I will try.
Thank you, Anne Marie.
Nice to see you.
You too.
Our next item tonight is to vote to set a date and open the warrant for annual town meeting. Man, I feel like we just finished fall town meeting, and here we
did.
are opening warrants once again.
Exactly. The fun never ends, so they say. This year, the town moderator, Jay Tallerman, asked that town meeting be on May 15th this year. May 15th is the Wednesday instead of the Tuesday this year. So there's two motions that we're looking for. We're looking for the select board to set the date of annual town meeting for May 15th at 7 p.m. And then to open the warrant and then close the warrant February 23rd at 6 p.m.
Can you say the open and close dates again for me?
Yes. So we'll open the warrant now and then close it for February 23rd at 6 p.m. And annual town meeting would be May 15th this year.
Okay.
And just for general information, we've already set the moderators meeting as well this year for April 30th at 11:30 a.m.
Just trying to do my math backwards here. If we close the warrant on the 23rd, will we be giving the advisory board enough time to go through the warrant as we believe it stands today?
Yes, we believe so.
Okay.
I've spoke with the advisory chairman previously. We're closing February 23rd, hopefully to, one, allow for that time period. Also, I think upon closing that, I would get a prelim warrant list together. I obviously will send it to the board, but we'll send it into advisory in advance as well, and touch base on some of our, more typical articles. So they should have more than sufficient time to
Perfect.
review them.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anita, any questions? No?
Second massacre in
Anita, can you hear us?
No, not yet. There we go. Anita, can you hear us now?
Now I can hear you.
Sorry. Do you have any questions associated to the current agenda item?
I have, the only question I have is, given the long history of town meeting being on Tuesday night, do you anticipate any pushback or problems with moving it from a Tuesday to a Wednesday?
I know the town is very particular. We did adjust town meeting previously. Jay had a request the previous year. It seemed to work fine. I think it's the next day. If the board so sets the date, we'll put it on our website for tomorrow, notifying the public. Carol, our town clerk, was in the loop on this as well. So, we think it's enough notice, but it really is the board's discretion. If you don't want to consider that date, you could set it for the 14th. But Jay did make that request.
Perhaps when we post it, we can post it like it is in the agenda, Wednesday, May 15th, so people see that Wednesday loud and clear.
Yes, we are particularly going to point out is the Wednesday.
Just a question of order.
Yeah.
We do have bylaws around this.
Yes.
Do the bylaws allow us the flexibility to change that date?
We spoke with both town councils, and Jay's a lawyer as well, and we do have the flexibility.
Well, we only have one town council, so.
Yeah, no, so, excuse me. We spoke with our town council, Tom, and Jay.
I know what you meant.
Yeah,
That's-
exactly.
I just didn't-
And Jay as well as
Yeah.
legal, and we have the flexibility to do that.
Okay, then I'm fine.
I think we went through this whole thing the last time when
We did.
Jay had a conflict associated to his daughter's
I know.
graduation.
But if our bylaws are specific and don't allow us that flexibility, then it's.
I specifically
Jay's problem.
asked both and
Not
pointed it out because that was a question of mine because how I read it, but they both confirmed we have the flexibility.
Okay. I'm good.
Anita, anything else?
Nothing else.
All right. Well, in that case, I would accept a motion to set a date and open the warrant for the annual town meeting.
I move to open the warrant effective today, January 24th. Is it the 24th? It is, isn't it?
23rd.
25th.
3rd.
I'm sorry?
23rd. 23rd. sorry.
23rd.
Yep.
Well, should we open it effective with the 24th? Just out of curiosity?
We have two motions specifically there to make it clear for you all. I think,
On the agenda back then.
yeah.
Did I lose sound?
Nope.
No,
Can you hear us still?
I believe.
Yes, sorry.
You have
Yeah,
my dad.
I've got it here, yeah. It's kind of a convoluted motion.
Fortunately, that's the only reason why we included this one. We had to do the general laws for the convening the business and then opening the warrant. We can craft it however manner you want.
I move to open the warrant for the 2024 annual town meeting to be held at the King Philip Middle School on Wednesday, May 15th, 2024. On this date, January 23rd, and to close the warrant on Friday, February 23rd at 6 p.m.
Second?
Hearing a second, we'll do a roll call vote. Kevin Calcutt, aye.
Jim Lehan, aye.
Anita Mecklenburg, aye.
And that one is unanimous. And then for the second.
I move pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 39, Section 9, convene business session of the annual town meeting shall occur on May 15th, 2024.
Second,
Hearing a second.
Should have done that first.
One more roll call vote. Kevin Calcutt, aye.
Jim Lehan, aye.
Anita Mecklenburg, aye.
And that is unanimous as well. The sequence isn't really.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I know. Get hung up on principle sometimes.
All right. Our next item tonight is to review and potentially vote on the select board goals, Justin.
Yes. So as the board's aware, the board had a workshop. There was a group of goals presented. I think this is our next public discussion of these goals. I don't know if the board would want to do a review of these goals, or select board goals, or town administrator specific goals. But I can give a quick review of town administrator goals, and then potentially, if the board wants to approve the overall goals, we'll make them public. But I think to set some timelines as well for some of the select board goals. But I'll run through the town administrator goals, and then you guys can determine how you want to go from there. Does that work for the board?
That works for me, yeah. Jim?
Oh, fine.
Anita? Good?
Yep.
Okay.
So as part of our discussion, reviewing Jeff's notes, our notes, we had a list of town administrator goals. So I'll just run through them individually, just give quick updates and so forth. So one of the adjustments was to have a financial update with adjustments related to some of the data. I know we've gotten feedback from Kevin as well, the board entirely. Todd presented the adjusted financial updates, and I think we're looking at incorporating one more change. So I think the next quarterly financial update, we should implement all those changes that the select board was looking for. One of the other important items was ClearGlove and the implementation of that. As the board is aware, we did receive a community compact grant to continue funding for ClearGlove software. And so right now, we are reviewing with departments the capital budget book. We anticipate that the capital budget book will be released online within the next 2 to 3 weeks. We're very proud of that, proud of the work the department heads have done. So within 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, that capital budget book should be online. We'll let the board know that as well. We're going to have an operating budget book this year as well, implementing operating budget book, anticipating that the budget is approved at May town meeting. We hope that this will be implemented by August of 2024, which is about 3 months after budget adoption. And then after that, we hope to have the transparency portal, which indicates, town spending and some of the more data-centric metrics that was previously online. We're working with ClearGov to make sure that all of our relevant data is integrated with that, and Todd is taking the lead there. So that's our focus on the ClearGov implementation and making sure that that data is transparent for the public. We talked about developing a financial forecast and probably discussing some fiscal guidelines. We also received a grant from for the Community Compact to do a financial forecast. We partnered with the Collins Center at UMass, and we are towards the tail end of that financial forecast. We will have Todd, as well as the representatives of the Collins Center, come in, discuss that forecast, lay out a 5-year forecast for the town, and then moving forward, we'll implement that on a yearly basis as well for the board. We'll do that before we have budget kickoff, so I anticipate December or January, we'll do an annual forecast moving forward. So that's where we're at, and that should be before the board in within a month's time. We talked about researching and implementing training for board and committee members, particularly regarding open meeting law and ethics. We've worked with the AGO's office to schedule some training. We were hoping to get that done in the summer, but after reviewing with some of our boards and commissions, we think it might be better to tackle that process in the winter. And so we put a timeline of December 2024 to implement that change. If the board would like to be more aggressive on that time, we can do that, but we didn't think it was prudent to try to tackle that in the summer. We talked about diversity and inclusion training. I did have a department head meeting last week, and we spoke with department heads. We're working on bringing in an outside consultant to do some bias training for department heads, and we anticipate doing that for fiscal year '25, and so July 2024. We'll implement that change and then see, come back before the select board, talk about that, and then look for more overall town training. But we'll be looking to implement that in July 2024. Talk about the production of a pilot of a quarterly town newsletter. We've done 2 issues so far, so I'd say we're in progress. We're gonna have our 3rd issue in the next coming months. We've heard great feedback about that so far, so we're in progress there. We talked about reviewing our personnel bylaw and updating our human resources policies. That's another grant that we were able to acquire, Community Compact Grant. We worked with the Collins Center as well. We're at the tail end of that. We received all of the updates, potential updates. I anticipate our HR director and I will be before the board in a month or 2 to have a proposed update for human resource policies, and discuss any new policies that we may want to consider. So that should be completed this year. And then we also talked about investigating the installation of electric charging stations and solar opportunities in town. There are a lot of grant funds out there right now. That's a focus of this administration, is a focus of the Governor Healy's administration, as well as the federal administration. There's opportunities to get 100% financing of electric vehicle charging stations. So it's something that I know the select board thought it's prudent to try to get as much grant funds as possible. It's something that it seems like this is a good opportunity to do. So I think that would be something in fiscal year '25 capital budget, probably before that. But that's something that I'm currently working with our facilities director to explore and have a proposal for the board to consider. So those are the town administrator goals. I don't know if there was anything else that the select board was interested in putting on there for town administrator goals, or timelines need to be adjusted, but that's what I'm focused on in the time being. And I like to give maybe, focus maybe quarterly updates on these goals, if the board would appreciate that, or if you want, half-year updates. I'm more than willing to do whatever the board wants to do there, but that's what I have on my end there.
I personally think that sounds fantastic. The way that you built out a lot of the delivery dates was centered around kind of when we're talking about those topics anyways. So you're not necessarily going so far outside of the normal routine to be able to address things that we've highlighted as being fairly important as we go through the rest of this calendar year. I don't think I would necessarily change anything that you've outlined here. I would say that I built out most of the segmentation of the delivery of the select board goals into quarters. So I think if we align that with your goals as well, being able to report back on status and progress on each of them at the end of each quarter makes sense to me, but I'd open it up for the feelings of the board as well.
How about it?
Anita?
I think breaking it out over the quarters makes really good sense, and then it's in manageable bites. The only thing, and I'm sure it was accidental, Justin, you skipped over having the department heads appear before the board.
Sorry,
And that I think
yes.
that's a really important step for us.
Absolutely. I apologize. Yes, I did skip over it. That was another thing that I did mention at our department head meeting, and all of our department heads are excited. This year, we are going to have, as part of our budget process, all of our department heads will come in, review their budgets, also talk about their programs as well. So we are on plan to implement that, and we'll implement that this year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good
No,
catch, Anita. Thank you.
I think it looks great.
Jim?
Justin, you do a great job on this. The only thing that I would like, and I don't think it necessarily has to be a major presentation, in fact, it can be done by email, is I would just like to see a little bit more on the financials on a monthly basis.
Okay.
I know he does run rates every month. He could just send a copy of the raw run rate, would be fine by me. But these budgets are going to be tight, and it's just my personal need to see those things. As you and I have talked many times, budgets are kind of my thing. So that run rate would be helpful, just to see it on a monthly basis.
We like
Just email a copy of it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all. This doesn't need to be a formal report. I'm sure, mailed to all of us, I'm sure, but I mean, it doesn't have to be any formal presentation, doesn't have to be part of the agenda. The timeline, in fact, you don't want it every month, but it's just for my own personal information, it would be helpful.
Okay.
Thank you.
We could do that for the board and just send out an email to everyone.
And then we maintain the quarterly check-ins for
Yes.
updates on performance against
Yep.
expectation.
Yep.
Okay.
And I don't want him creating a separate report. Just, no, he does a run rate now, every month, just, that's all I need to see. Yeah, no separate report.
Yep. We can do
He
that.
has enough work.
We can do that.
Okay, so just to quickly review the select board goals, the way that I broke these down was really getting about 1 or 2 goals into each quarter leading up through quarter 3 of this year. I didn't think that would over encumber us from, obviously early Q2 going to end of Q2 is going to be very budget oriented and town meeting oriented. The summer is typically some downtime for us. We only meet once a month. But I took all of that into account, but obviously open to discussion about what everybody feels. The first one we had was a cable show with select board members and
Kevin?
guests.
I'm so sorry, may I interrupt you?
Sure.
Could we just start before, first of all, thank you for that work, but could we start just reminding the public of the process that we went through to do this? Because I think the process was really exciting, and it might help them understand that these aren't arbitrary items that were just spaghetti at the wall, that how this came about?
Absolutely. So the select board got together and basically put blindfolds on and threw darts at a wall, and whatever we landed on is what we decided on for goals for the year. No, I joke. We actually got together for a summit where we leveraged the expertise of a gentleman from Franklin, a former town administrator named Jeff Nutting, who was able to help us work through some of the expectations and align the group on some of the things that we wanted to see out of this year, not only on the town's basis, but within our communities, and to help us stay on track more than anything else, to be able to turn a lot of those thoughts and aspirations into tangible, trackable goals. So I think we ended up spending about, 3 hours there that day where we worked through all of this over in the library. We were able to segment everything into what was deliverable, what was more aspirational. And this meeting is really meant to go over what came out of that meeting. And then, like Justin had said, put some timestamps on everything, put some deliverable dates on everything so that we can hold ourselves accountable as we make our way through this year. Anita, did that
Thank you.
capture everything, or is there anything you wanted to add?
Yes, the only thing I would add is in preparation for that meeting, the three of us sort of brainstormed privately what we felt like were the strengths of our board and the strengths of our community and the needs of our community, and that our individual thoughts were then called by Jeff Nutting, and that we were very, very well aligned with each other, and that was part of the process. That's the only piece that I would add, and thank you for humoring me on that.
No, of course. No, and that's a good point as well. As part of the prep work, Jeff had sent us all individually a request to answer a few questions about, how we prioritize certain aspects of town government and the kinds of things that we feel are important to prioritize in terms of our initiatives. And we were surprised to see, because we didn't know what each other had sent back to Jeff. Once we got in the room, we were surprised to see that we were pretty closely aligned as to where we thought priority lied with certain aspects and certain initiatives. So that was great to see, and I think it was a great jumping off point to be able to turn our attention into some of the goals that we outlined. So speaking of those goals,
Can I add one more thing to it?
Go right.
I think there was one other part to that you never see in the goals. And I think there was a great advantage to doing those kinds of sessions, and I'm glad we did, and I've done them in the past, but I thought that was one of the best that I've attended. Not only does it work our way through the priorities for us in terms of what we think is important to the town, it was also a significant element of understanding ourselves and how we work together and what our strengths and weaknesses are and how each of us can help each other work through that. And that's a hard thing to do without some help. And I mean, each of us brings different skill sets to the table, and each of us has different views and understanding of that process. And Jeff was very effective at helping us understand how to utilize each other's strengths, how to work them together as a cohesive unit. And I thought that was one of the true benefits of that meeting. Something you will not see in the goals, but something that I think makes us as a board more effective.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Jim.
So just to quickly go through the goals that we had outlined for this year. We noted the importance of reinstituting a cable show with select board members and guests to be able to consolidate some of the information that's out there across the numerous boards and committees in town and make it a little bit easier to digest for the community. That is in progress. We're actually going to be taping our next show next week, fingers crossed. So we'll have that out in January. Our next one was to meet with boards and commissions a little bit more regularly. We built on that and said that establishing relationships with boards and commissions assigned to us as liaison appointments was something that we wanted to do a little bit more of going into this year. That included quarterly check-ins, coffee get-togethers, informal opportunities to build relationships, attending more meetings, and also improving the promotion of volunteer opportunities. I had made that a Q1 goal, and I know that we're already 3 weeks into Q1, so we've lost some time there. But I thought it was important to be able to get this done as we head into an election cycle where we're trying to encourage individuals here in town to take the initiative to volunteer, to contribute in one of those capacities. That is the only one that I designated for Q1, knowing that we are going to be going through a pretty rigorous budget review cycle. But I thought it was a great opportunity for us to be able to initiate that going through this first quarter. Sound good?
Yeah, no, it's fine. Yep.
Next up on the list, we had to bring up the discussion regarding the future of Old Town Hall once again. Obviously, we're trying to figure out how to redevelop Old Town Hall. Jim is laughing because that might have been the 5th time that he's heard this come up on a goal.
I'm not laughing disrespectfully.
I know.
Yeah, yeah.
But we do need to figure out, as we go through the discussions of master plan, about the MBTA rezoning of town center, about the rezoning effort that we went through 3 years ago, Old Town Hall needs to be addressed, and we need to figure out what we're going to do. And we want to do that collaboratively with the community, with key stakeholders and whatnot. And so we want to make sure that we put a marker in that and identify that as a definitive thing we want to address this year. I had that for Q2 for us to focus on that. The other one I had for Q2 was to review the current bylaws and TA Special Act with the goal of improving the efficiency and effectiveness of town operations. This included appointing a committee, getting a consultant, touching base with state agencies. But really, the jumping off point for that initiative would be deciding which avenue we want to take to be able to have that fruitful discussion. I marked that one as Q2 as well. So those were the two for Q2, was to talk about Old Town Hall and the review of the current bylaws and how we would go about doing that. That makes sense?
Yes.
Next on our list, we had finalizing the TA goals, establishing a timeline to review and establish annual goals and whatnot. Obviously, we just went through the TA goals, and I think everybody's pretty on board with the way that Justin outlined the timetable for those individual initiatives. But we did need to highlight a period when we would review and establish new goals. I think it did make sense to focus that just after the fiscal year ended in the July, August area. So I marked that one as an early Q3 deliverable. The other one I had for Q3 was to explore avenues for the select board to take more of a leadership role. I think that this is missing in the context of town meetings specifically. This would include perhaps making the motions at town meeting or ensuring that recommendations that we make during the course of our public meetings are inserted in some way, shape, or form into the warrant. Obviously, there is some bylaw jumping around we'd have to accommodate for to ensure that we're not crossing over any of the standards set before us. But I think we all agreed that instead of just sitting up there with beautiful smiles on our faces, we'd like to be more involved in the delivery of some of these important business items that are being presented to the community. I had that marked as a Q3 initiative as well, something that we'd be able to take with us as we cross into our special town meeting for 2024.
I'd like to add one to that.
Sure.
I know we discussed it, but, and this isn't meant in any way to be disrespectful to our town moderator, but I firmly believe that the town moderator should be deflecting questions to the appropriate parties, whether it be our town council, the board, members of the, whatever it might be. The town moderator has a tendency to answer too many questions, and that's not the role of a moderator. And I know it's a tough one to say because, Jay does an excellent job. So it's a tough one. But it does, in fact, diminish the role of the people that are there. And that is our role. And I think those questions need to be referred to the appropriate parties and not answered by the moderator.
Yeah, no, I agree with you that, if we do have the ability to address those questions coming up, obviously, we're extremely fortunate to
Yep.
have a town moderator that works in that
Absolutely.
capacity as town council in a
Yep.
number of other towns.
Not meant to be critical, and I understand why he does it, and his
Yep.
answers are about 99 and 9/10% right.
Yep.
But the process is important.
Right.
And it's more about process. It's not in any way a reflection on Jay, because, I understand why and how he does it, but I just think that takes away the role of the parties that are involved in the particular process of those articles. And
Yep.
I think those should be reflected back to the parties involved,
Yep, absolutely.
especially our town council. If it's a legal question, that question should go to our town council.
Yep. So, yeah, like I said, I had that one marked for Q3 as well, and in addition to reviewing the town administrator goals. How does that sound to the group?
Yep.
Good?
Sounds great.
Very good. Well, it looks like we have ourselves a calendar, and now we can be held accountable to all these wonderful things that we're looking to do.
Right. And if the board, I don't think we didn't ever fully took like an official motion on it, but I think these are great for myself as well as the select board to understand, hey, this is what we're operating off of. So if the board wants to take a formal vote for that, I would, after tonight's meeting, we'll post it up on the select board and our website as well, so people can be attuned to that. And then as we update them, we can update them there and just keep
I
the
agree.
public informed.
Very good. In that case, I would accept a motion to approve our select board goals.
So moved.
Anita, do you have a question first?
I did. Well, at the bottom of our goals, there were some comments or goals around the master plan. And are we including that in this motion, or is that something we'll discuss separately? Because I wanted to be sure, the thing that I was worried about is we have this amazing master plan committee and they've done all this work, and I would just hate for them to get to what they see as the end and then have it come to us, and then we're say, well, we want this and this and this, and they're like, wait, what? So I think we need to figure out how to marry the master plan goals into our goals, and I was wondering if that would be included in this motion.
So Anita, I segmented out the master plan for two reasons. One, because we don't have a master plan yet. We're anticipated to have a completed master plan sometime around the end of Q1, beginning of Q2. But we're not exactly sure what that final product is going to necessarily look like. So I think that knowing what that finalized plan looks like helps us knock off a lot of these items that we identified as being primary focuses, at least from the select board's participation and how we're going to assist in seeing them to, fruition. The second one was we can absolutely come back and highlight what we want to do with that master plan once we have that final product in our hands. And I thought that it was important that we hold off on approving this until we get to that point. It just seemed more like a dependency than anything else from my perspective. But if you disagree, I'm more than happy to entertain any kind of different approach.
No, I don't disagree. I'm concerned. Concerned is not the right word. I'm thinking about the possible tension between the goals and the vision of the board and the goals and the vision of the master plan. And I'm wondering if we should be partnering before they tie a bow on the package. Do you know what I mean? So that we partner with that committee at the end of that process, or nearer that we partner with them before they present it to us and say, we're all set. And then we say, oh, now change this and this. That's not going to feel very good, and they have worked very hard. So I'm fine with waiting on it. I'm not suggesting that it needs to be hurried up, but I'm just thinking that that's an important step that the town is taking. It's going to inform our decisions, and that should be tucked into our calendar.
Absolutely. The two things I would say to that is, one, you do have a semi-competent individual that you sent to this committee that's able to report back on some of the things that are being done from a orientation and initiative standpoint. So I'll be sure that I do a better job of conveying to you and the rest of the board what's going on, what's being talked about, and if there is a point of concern that may intersect with something that we've discussed here as part of our goals. The second one is that we can absolutely invite the master plan committee, including MAPC, to come and present to the board before we move past any of those milestones of completion that we've talked about. So, if we get to the end of February and we finish our scoping and prioritization discussions, I can ask them to come in and present to the board so that we remain aligned as to where the priorities lie and how it's being laid out.
I think that would be really valuable, and I actually, just to clarify, first of all, I feel like our representative is highly qualified, and then I think it would be valuable to have them come in mostly around expectations, right? It can sometimes be a disconnect, and then you have a committee that's volunteered so much time and thoughtful, intentional energy, and then I think it is useful to connect prior, so thank you.
Of course.
May I comment on this?
Sure.
Anita, I think your points are well taken. It is a critical component of how we go forward, but we are not the guiding body in this process. And to me, a goal is something that we are in the managing responsibility for. These are things that we can control and that we have ability to execute on. We're partners in the master planning process. And we need to keep it in our focus. We need to keep it in front of us. We need to stay involved and influence it in the areas that we feel are critical to the community. But it isn't our project. So I just personally never feel a goal should be something that we're not responsible for executing on. I don't want a goal that I can't execute on, if you will.
No, and that's a good point.
Maybe I'm thinking, Kevin, then thinking about Jim's comments, maybe it isn't a goal for us, but it's rather just a calendar item.
Yeah, it's a business plan in many respects. It's something that we're working on together. We're partners, but it's not under our leadership per se. We're just part of the process, and it's a fascinating process. I've been through these before, and they're interesting. You know, I mean, it's usually the collective minds come up with good solutions, and I'm interested to see how it ends up. I know I've certainly participated in it. I know you have, and I've stayed on top of it. But it's not a goal for us. If you want to say a goal is to stay involved and to contribute to the solution, that would be a goal.
And I would say, too, that there could be items that come out of the master plan that do fall under the purview of the select
question.
board, right?
They will.
We may want to
Yeah.
commission an economic development committee to carry forward some of the initiatives outlined in that
Absolutely.
plan, and that does fall within our purview. We just wouldn't know that that's something that falls under our purview until we get that final product of the
Yeah.
master plan. And it goes back to, again, why I had opted to leave that out of this review and this approval, and then to pick it up the moment that we do have some more information as to what that output's going to look like.
It's important. Yeah.
Thank you, that sounds great.
Sure, I just add two things, because one part of this is we included at the bottom of this, and I think that's what Anita's referencing. There was a subsection that said master plan, and once the master plan is complete, I think we won't include that as part of the select board goals. I think that's what you were wondering, Anita. So we won't include that as part of the select board goals. That was just part of the board's overall discussion of the workshop.
I assume
So we
that,
use that as information purposes. And the other thing is kind of a good segue to a general update I was going to have about the master plan. The MAPC visited with department heads last week to get some feedback from department heads based on some of the community forums. And I spoke with Josh and the planners that are running that process. I know Kevin's well in tune with this. They are going to come to the board and present that and get some feedback from the board as well. So, I think just as the chair had mentioned, I think there's going to be quite a few opportunities to chime and hear from the master plan committee as well as MAPC. So,
Thank you.
yeah, you're welcome.
But Anita, just to echo a point that you had made, it is the single largest long-term planning initiative that we've taken on in the last 15 years, right? It is going to map out what the next 15, 20, 25 years look like for the development and growth of Norfolk. So it is something that needs to stay at the forefront of all of our attention and, planning as we move forward.
And I guess I'm just hoping that their circles, their work is concentric with our work and not something that is separate.
Absolutely.
You don't want this to be a siloed process.
No.
I
And
couldn't agree
we
more.
have some history of doing that, so I want to make sure we are moving forward with intention not to be that way. Thank you.
Point well taken.
All right, so with that, I would take a motion to approve the Select Board and Town Administrator goals for 2024.
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second. Second.
Hearing a second. We'll do a roll call vote. Kevin Calcutt, aye.
Jim Lehan, aye.
Anita Mecklenburg, aye.
And that is unanimous. Thank you all very much. And Justin, thank you so much for helping to put all this together and get us organized. Really appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you.
That brings us to our next agenda item this evening, which is the appropriation of opioid settlement funds, Justin.
Yes. So we listed this as a discussion item for the board, but just quick background for the board. Part of settlements with opioid companies, various municipalities have received an allotment of funds. For the town of Norfolk, we've received $46,339.88 so far. At fall's special town meeting, this past fall town meeting, we allocated $20,000 to be transferred into the select board budget to allow the select board to appropriate $20,000 in this fiscal year. We also set a process for appropriating funds in the future. So wanted to sort of circle back on this agenda item. We've received general inquiries from people like Gillies House, the Safe Coalition, as well as, the director of wellness at our schools, as well as the Medicament nurses to see, how the board would appropriate these funds. So there's a variety of ways to do this. Some municipalities have done advisory groups. Some have just put a general inquiry out for, requests for these funds and then just appropriate them. I wanted the select board to have the opportunity to provide me some direction as well on how you would like to pursue this. I know some groups have already, presented some potential asks for the board that we could keep it simple for the $20,000 and collect that for the board and present it before a future select board meeting. If the board wants to do an advisory group, it can do that. I think we need to have a little bit of direction there on what you would like to see happen. So that's why we have as a discussion item for tonight.
Thanks, Justin. And I know that I've been bugging you about this for a while, so I apologize retroactively for all of the pings associated to what we were going to be doing to get this done. From my perspective, I mean, this money is doing nobody any good sitting in one of our reserve accounts, waiting for us to make a decision on how to disperse it. So I was eager to be able to find ways to get into the hands of those who could really help with addressing some of the needs of the community. That being said, I don't want to make it any more complex than it already is and has been. I would prefer that we would be the ones to be able to make accommodations and determinations as to where these funds should go as a body. Obviously, in a setting of a public meeting, I think in my mind, I envision Justin collecting proposals from these organizations that would highlight where this money would go and what they'd be able to do with it, and then have the board vote to come up with a disbursement of the full amount of the funds. But I'm open to other suggestions and thoughts from members of the board. Jim?
The money, the faster we get it out, the better.
Yep.
But it has to be done in a fair and equitable way, and it has to be done in a meaningful way. So I think your suggestion is fine.
Anita?
I like your suggestion as well of a simple application process, that they would make an application and say how they would spend the funds, and that we would have a deadline and we would have the opportunity to review that as a board. I would ask that the application include a section where they just explain how many Norfolk residents would be impacted by the use of the funds, so we have some way of weighing and in what way they would be impacted. So we have some way of weighing that decision.
That's a good point from Anita, just in case we were to have more widespread organizations who wouldn't necessarily have a direct impact on Norfolk, who would see it as an opportunity. We do obviously want it to impact Norfolk as much as possible.
Could we look at that maybe a little bit of a different way? I mean, because a lot of the information is very sensitive on these issues, and so they're not going to be able to give you the demographics that you might be looking for in terms of the people that they're serving. They can't by law. So, but there are organizations that are more centralized around our area, like Gillies House, for example, which isn't located in Norfolk, but it's in a neighbor, and I'm sure there are Norfolk residents that are being serviced there, but we won't know that. So I would focus around organizations that are sort of geographically linked to our area, because I don't know that you're going to get any meaningful data, nor should you, in some respects, of how many Norfolk residents or people who live in. I mean, I think that's a little out of our reach and out of our bounds, but I do think we can centralize it to the area.
If we left the question open-ended and identified, just talk to us a little bit about the impact this would have on the Norfolk community. You know, somebody like Gillies can identify we're located right in Rentham, we take a
that's what
big
I'm
number
saying.
of people from a
Yep.
10-mile radius. Somebody like SAFE can identify
we can do.
programs they do at King
Absolutely.
Philip.
That
You
we
know,
can
I
do.
do think that
Yeah.
leaving it, we're not looking for them to tell us specifically how many people in Norfolk they've serviced over the course of the last 6 months, 12 months, but rather how they anticipate that their
We're saying
service.
the same thing,
Yeah.
just a different way.
Gotcha. The only other question I had, and I've gone back and forth on this one, was if we wanted to invite representatives from these organizations to come in and speak to the board about their proposal and their application live, or if we just wanted to assess the applications as they're submitted.
I would lean towards assessing the applications.
Okay.
I agree.
How do you say no
And
to
maybe it'll
something?
be better able to make that decision once we see the applications.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll hold off on identifying what the meeting format will look like to review until after we've received these applications back. What questions do you have, Justin?
So procedurally, and I defer to however the board wants to do this, would you like me to work on creating an application? This should be simple enough. I feel like I have good direction from the board, and then sending out to recipients that have heard, some general inquiries about. We can put it on the website as well, promote that, and we'll do Guilfoyle Relations just to promote that it's out there, and just do that proactively before our next select board meeting? Or would you like me to craft an application and then come back to you February 6th, get approval on the application, and then go from there?
I personally would prefer it be out sooner rather than later and trust you to be able to put something together that meets the expectations that you've heard tonight, but again, open to
I
the.
second that motion.
Yep.
Thank you for allowing. I thought that's probably what you would do. I just wanted confirmation on. Okay, I will work on that and have that out this week, and I'll let the board know when we do promote it on our website as well as through Guilfoyle.
Great.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Justin.
And then, assuming that we do get feedback from those residents, from anyone interested, I'll just start giving it to the board, and we can have that as an agenda item on the 6th then as well,
Great.
if you want to. If you have enough budget. Okay?
That's a good thing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, our next item tonight is our general update, starting with the town administrator updates, Justin.
Yes. Have a few updates. Bear with me a little bit. Just the first update I want to address is the fiscal year '24 budget. As the board is aware, as part of the fiscal year '24 budget, general receipts at the state level have been lagging. So the governor implemented some 9C earmark cuts, essentially. There was 2 earmarks that the town of Norfolk received in the fiscal year '24 budget. One was for $20,000 for Boardman Park, looking at retrofitting that park for allowing for senior use. So that earmark was cut to $10,000. Our recreation director is looking at how to utilize the funds that we are, still getting there. We don't really have anything regarding that just yet. But there was another important one, the fire station, the radio repeater system. That was a part of our capital list at fall town meeting. We had anticipated getting the full $45,000. That earmark was cut to $22,500. So just giving a general heads up there that, we'll likely have to fund that difference at annual town meeting because we were expecting to get that full earmark. So I wanted the board to have that confirmation that was a part of the 9C reductions by the governor.
Couple of questions for you on that one, Justin.
Sure.
The first one, have we made any leeway on identifying or if we're going to be able to leverage the $10,000 from the Boardman Park towards the shortfall on the fire radio repeaters?
We've put a query out to both the secretary liaisons associated with these earmark requests to see, because obviously this is a public safety priority for us. Haven't heard back from them yet. It tends to be a little bit trickier, so I'd be a little pessimistic there. But we are trying to work on that. We're trying to see if we could allocate that $10,000 to the radio repeater system. We're working on it. Haven't heard anything yet.
Perfect, thank you. And my other question was just so that we can put this into scale. Do you have the estimated totals for us to be able to complete these 2 projects, both the radio repeater project and the Boardman Park project?
The Boardman Park project, no, because to be honest with you, it wasn't something that was directly researched at staff level. So no, we don't have any figures for the Boardman Park. I just want to understand your question. Are you asking what the overall cost of the?
Overall cost, right? So
The fire station repeater system, doing off the top of my head, it was around $200,000. A majority of it was funded through capital, but we had thought, we had approval of the $45,000 previously, so we obviously didn't count for a $22,500 difference.
perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anita, any questions?
No questions.
Okay. Sorry to interrupt your updates. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. The other update, we had some, the town's aware, and I know the select board's aware, there was some flooding associated with the Highland Lake Dam. I just want to give a general update. We feel that flooding was exacerbated by the amount of rainfall that we've received recently. But there have been some debris and some issues of concern at the dam. The Office of Dam Safety came out to the town on Friday. We had our conservation agent there, our DPW director there. They did a field report there. We have some recommendations to try to ameliorate that situation. So I did want to let the board know that we are working on that, and we're working with the Conservation Commission to try to put some enforcement provisions there to address that issue. So we're working with our state partners and our town staff to address that matter. And then just general update, I know the board's aware of this as well. I kind of mentioned this before. We have a budget memo out. We're starting the process with our departments to get budget requests. We have a deadline of February 1st to start getting those requests. So we'll be coming back to the board with, the fiscal year 25 budget process very soon. We all know it's a tricky budget, but we are working on that actively now. And as I mentioned earlier, we should have a financial forecast presentation next few weeks for the board to sort of kick-start that process off for you all. That's it for now. I know we're passing over the Veteran Services recognition for the next meeting.
Correct. Thank you. For select board updates, I just really had one, and that was that the select board in its entirety attended the MMA conference. Is my audio
Can't
out?
hear you.
All right, should be back.
Okay.
How about now?
Yes, I can hear you now. Thank you.
Okay. The entire select board was able to attend the Massachusetts Municipal Association Conference in Boston this past week. We had the opportunity to join a number of municipal leaders from across the Commonwealth in Boston at the Heinz Convention Center. It was a fantastic 2-day event where we got to hear from the governor, the lieutenant governor. We got to hear about upcoming initiatives that are going to impact our communities directly. Specifically the Affordable Homes Act and the Municipal Empowerment Act, which are going to open up some capabilities for us at the local level to be able to impact our communities, both from a tax assessment perspective and from some zoning perspectives. We look forward to going through that all in more detail. I think that the Municipal Empowerment Act was just filed today, so we're looking forward to reading through that in more detail. But we also had the opportunity to attend breakout sessions in which we got to learn more about individual aspects of municipal government and to collaborate with those who are experts as well as those other attendees that were joining us. So just really quickly, I thought it'd be a great option for us to go through and just highlight the discussions that we went to and maybe just talk a little bit about the experience. Jim, did you want to start?
Well, the first one I went to was the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusionary session, which I found quite interesting. Unfortunately, I think that it's a small town like ours is really not quite in the same position as a lot of the larger cities and communities, so I think our issues are different and a little bit more difficult, but it was very informative. It was educational. It's an issue that's here. It's alive and well. I see it in the King Philip School District. We're struggling with it right there as well. So I would view that one being as more informative. I didn't get a lot of takeaways from that, quite honestly, that I thought we could implement here. So in that sense, I guess I was a little disappointed, but I did find it very informative, and that made it of value to me, because personally it helped me have a better understanding of the issues that we're trying to work through. I found the keynote speaker, which ties directly in to that particular session, to be absolutely outstanding. That was one of the most articulate presentations on the issue that I've ever heard, and most impassioned. regardless of what side of the fence you sit on. And whatever your personal views or biases may be in that issue, you could not help but be moved by the message that that man brought forward. And he did it in a way that was non-confrontational. It wasn't picking sides or choosing issues. It was just eloquently stated, and I look forward to seeing that again on the MMA webpage, because there's more to gain from his words that it's just, there was so much there. I need to see that several times to really appreciate what he had to say. The second issue, I went to the fiscal one, which I did find of value. I found some, it's funny, you think you know it pretty well, and then all of a sudden this one idea just pops up and said, wow, I hadn't thought of that. And I had several of those that I'm going to talk with Justin about. I found that very helpful, very informative. So those are the two I attended.
Thanks, Jim. Anita?
I attended two different ones on the diversity, equity, and inclusion, and I found them to be very exciting to see the work that was done. In one of the presentations, they really outlined kind of a template about how towns can lean into that work, and so I found that to be very valuable. And the other one was interesting and inspiring as well. And I also went to hear Gina McCarthy on Saturday, who spoke about climate and how municipalities can respond to the changes in the climate.
Yeah.
And I found her to be, well, first of all, she's so funny. She's
Oh,
such
my
a
Lord.
dynamo.
Yeah.
And also so, she really talked about, she started out with a message that was really like, these changes to our climate are real and they're going to happen in our lifetime. It was very, somber message, but then she said these are also opportunities for us, that this is, and she turned it into a really positive message, that these challenges are really opportunities for our communities to, they're job opportunities, and there are opportunities for us to grow from it. And so I found that to be valuable as well. Also, if I can just say, as a woman in government, it was so exciting to hear Michelle Wu, and who's the mayor of Boston, and Kim Driscoll, the lieutenant governor, and Maura Healey, the governor, and Elizabeth Warren. It was just so exciting to see these dynamic people. We were there. Also, Kate O'Brien, our assistant town administrator, was there with us. And so that was very exciting. And Senator Mark, it was there as well. And listening to them speak was really exciting. And it's a nice reminder that there's people at the federal government working for us as well.
I also attended that. That was a speaker, actually. It wasn't really a workshop, but she was absolutely phenomenal. It was amazing to me. I'm guessing she had to be, I'm not a good judge of age, but I'm saying it probably 70s anyway, if not, which she freely touted on many occasions. But she was incredibly sharp. But what I got from her message, and I think Anita's saying the same thing, that while she presents the issues and certainly the concerns, she was really an incredibly optimistic woman. And one of the things that she said that has resounded with me is that never underestimate the word of our youth and the power of our youth, and do not diminish their value of input because they're young. Their words are critical to our future. And I'm not quite paraphrasing her, but that's pretty close. And she was inspiring.
Yeah.
Absolutely, and absolutely hilarious.
Yes, she was.
That's actually the word I would describe Gina McCarthy as, is inspiring. When she gets in front of a microphone,
She is inspiring.
her words go right to you,
Right
and
to
you
you,
feel
right through
so
you.
impassioned about just seeing how she carries herself. I know that she's worked in many different facets of government, even at the federal level, and everybody that passes her is familiar with her, a hug and everything. So it's just fantastic to see that kind of passion associated to one of the major issues facing not only Massachusetts, but the country. The two that I went to for the breakout sessions were the financial and economic outlook that Jim went to. I think we went at different times, but I went to that session with hopes of getting some more feedback as to the revenue shortfalls that caused us to have to take these cuts to our municipal projects. They did go through some of what they saw in terms of each of the segments of tax submissions at the state level, but they didn't really touch on specifically where they saw shortfalls, which was a little bit disappointing. But still, the information was good, and it was great to hear about what they're looking for in terms of projections going into '25. The other one I went to was associated to the relationship between municipal government and state government, and the best and most effective ways for local government officials to be able to engage with their state delegation. Side reasons to the side of that, it was helpful to be able to hear about the kinds of things that other municipalities are facing in terms of struggles with communicating with their state legislation, or seeing a return on actionable initiatives from those individuals. So from my perspective, obviously, I'd like to say that we have a pretty good communication line with our state delegation here in Norfolk, but it was good to hear about some of the challenges that others are facing and how you can get over those kinds of humps to ensure that you're getting the representation you need for your communities. So I thank you both for going through that a little bit. I thought it was important for us to be able to highlight that we weren't just up there knob-hobbing with other select board members, that we were actually doing some work that was to the benefit of our community. But I appreciate you taking us through all those things. And that's everything I had for my updates for tonight, unless, Jim, any updates?
Just a couple, and this is really just a discussion item more than an update. Town Hill, we have a need to replace a lovely stand in the middle of our Town Hill. It is the gazebo. It's falling apart. And the CPC has agreed to fund the reconstruction or rebuilding, or whatever the right term might be, that project, but they need an owner of the project. It could be us. As the Board of Selectmen, we could own that project and delegate it to, say, DPW or some form to oversee it, but it could also be something I thought the Lions might have interest in. So I'm but it's a discussion point. This is something that really needs to get done. They would like to get it on the warrant in the spring, but we need to have a sponsor. We need to have an owner of that. So we don't have to answer it this evening. We have plenty of time to do it. But give some thought to how you think we might approach that, because it could be us, could be Lions, could be DPW, these are just idle thoughts, but give some thought to that.
Yeah.
Don't need an answer tonight, but that's an opportunity, and I hope we'll follow up on that. The other thing has nothing to do with the Board of Selectmen, but it's just a commercial. Monday night was a glorious night for King Philip. And King Philip beat Franklin High School in hockey 5-4 for only the second time in their history.
Yep.
And they had, prior to that, beaten Canton 4-0. And that is the first time in the history of King Philip hockey that they have ever beaten Canton and Franklin in the same year. So while they haven't reached the plateau of the football team yet,
It was a big step, though.
and they are ranked 7th, I believe, in the state right now.
Amazing.
They're getting there. But it was a wonderful evening.
Fantastic.
Not that I have no passion for that sport.
Anita, any updates from your end?
No updates at this end. I was going to just share about the MMA, so.
Fantastic, thank you. All right, that brings us to our next item.
Mr. Chair, can I just add one thing for the MMA?
Sure.
Because I do know the board has been very supportive about professional development overall in the office, and I do want to thank you all on behalf of Kate as well. And I wanted Kate to attend the MMA conference this year. I've gone many times, and she was deeply appreciative of that, and she had good sessions that she went to as well. I was going to reach out to all the board members and meet with you individually to talk about anything that you might want to discuss or takeaways from there. So I think that was a good segue.
It's nice to have her there.
Yeah.
So thank you for allowing the opportunity as well.
Of course. So our next item tonight is the report of warrants. Do we have a motion to approve?
So as I go to that, well, I can say it. I move to approve the warrants as printed in the agenda.
Second,
Hearing a second, we'll do a roll call vote. Kevin Calcutt, aye.
Jim Lehan, aye.
Anita Mecklenburg, aye.
And that is unanimous. Do we have a minutes to approve this evening? Do we have minutes
Yes,
to
we do.
approve this evening? Okay, well, in that case, Anita, take it away.
I move that we approve the minutes for the meetings of November 14th, 2023 and January 2nd, 2024.
I second.
Hearing a second, we'll do one more roll call vote. Kevin Calcutt, aye.
Jim Lehan, aye.
Anita Mecklenburg, aye.
And that is unanimous as well. I said one more. There's going to be one more to adjourn, I know. But do we have anything that we'd like to add before we break tonight, Justin?
No.
Calendar.
Yes, I think we should discuss it while Anita's on here as well. The board's next meeting is January 20th, excuse me, we're already January 3rd. It's February 6th and February 20th. February 20th is scheduled during school vacation week. Want to know if that date still worked for the board. If not, we do need to schedule another meeting, maybe the 27th, because there is a time-sensitive matter that we need to get done before the end of February 29th, for a hazard mitigation plan.
So I will be in Florida. I am able to attend remotely if there is something of utmost urgency that we need to address on that night. However, I would be more in favor of pushing the meeting to the 27th if we're able to do that with the content we have to cover.
Yep.
I will not be in Florida, so the 27th is fine for me.
27th works for me.
Nice and easy. There we go.
Beautiful.
We'll schedule for the 27th.
Good call, Jim. Thank you.
Well, I'm past the trips to Florida with my kids, so I thought maybe it would be important. But I'm very sensitive to families that have them.
Thank you.
And then may I just ask, Amanda, you'll put those on our calendar? And would you put town meeting and that town moderators meeting too on our calendars?
Will do.
Thank you, Amanda. You're amazing.
While we're talking about this, that does bring us to, because our next meeting would be in March, which would be March 5th, which is only about 6 days away. I know we're in the sequence of first and third, but do we want to look at that? Because you've got the spring break also on that week of the 19th.
The problem we run into is the 12th, the planning board has the room.
Yeah.
So
Then let's keep it the way it is. And if we need to,
If we need to adjust, well, you can.
we can bump it
adjust.
if we don't need it.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And, if we don't have a whole lot of content for March 5th, then,
can
we can
push it to the
reassess. Yeah.
Okay.
Very good. Anything else tonight, Jim?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Anita?
No, I do not.
Justin?
No, thank you.
Karen in the back? No, she's all good. In that case, I would take a motion to adjourn.
Anita, you're up.
I move that we adjourn.
I second.
Hearing a second, we'll do a roll call vote. Kevin Calcutt, aye.
Jim Lehan, aye.
Anita Mecklenburg, aye.
Thank you so much, everybody. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you for being patient with me being remote.